name is Keisha Wallace, and I'm with ACEWAL Scholars. Today, we will be learning translating mathematical sentences into equations. So, let's begin. Okay, first, let's establish our lesson goals. So, our first lesson goal will be understanding the relationship between words and mathematical operations. Our second goal will be translating a mathematical sentence into an equation. And then finally, we're going to take that mathematical sentence and solve it. So our third goal will be solving the translated equation. Let's begin. All right, so translation time. Before we get into solving problems, we need to know what some words mean, what the mathematical translation is for that particular word. Now, there are so many translations, and we've only covered only a tiny bit of it, but this should help you get started. So the word is means equals or equivalent to, which is the same thing. So is means equal. The words of, times, and product, that means to multiply. And you may see a multiplication symbol that looks like an X, but now that you're doing algebraic or solving algebraic equations, more than likely you're going to see the dot. All right, the next words are quotient and divided by. So both of these mean division. And then going on to our next row, we have the sum of, added to, and greater than. So when you see these phrases, that means addition. And then finally, we have difference, minus, and less than. And when you see that, that means subtraction. Now, if we look at that last word phrase, less than, we're going to notice the than. This is super important when it comes to translating because there's something special we do anytime we see the than. So make sure you have that word stand out in your mind. And we'll see some examples where we include the than. So let's move on to our first example. Example 1. A number added to 5 is 23. Now you're going to notice we have our translation box over to the side. And when you're first learning how to translate, it may be a good thing to have the translations and the operations that represent those specific words right next to you. So a number added to 5 is 23. So let's look at that. What does that mean? Anytime we see the word a number, that means we can actually put a variable in the place of it. And this time we're going to be using the variable x. Now, if we look at our box, we'll see that the symbol x also means times or the operation multiplication. But in this case, we're going to be using x as our variable. So a number, and we'll represent that with the variable x, added, which is the addition sign, to 5 is, and we know that is means equal 23. All right, so we have x plus 5 equals 23. So let's solve. So we're going to subtract 5 on both sides. Our 5s that are on the left side will cancel out, and we're left with x equals 18. See how simple that was? Once you know what words mean what mathematical operations, you can put an equation together and solve for an unknown variable. Let's move to our next example. Example 2, we have 2 times a number minus 6 is negative 25. So let's go ahead and write that equation out. So we have 2n minus 6 equals negative 25. All right, so in algebra, you can actually write two things next to each other, and that will actually represent multiplication. So we've omitted the dot sign, which means multiplication, and just wrote 2 and n together, and that says that we're multiplying the 2. So what's the first thing we're going to do? Let's use that additive property of equality to isolate our variable, and we're going to add 6 on both sides. So then our 6's cancel out, and we have 2n equals a negative 19. Now we're not done here because our variable is still not by itself. So we're going to divide by 2 on both sides. And then our 2's will cancel out, and we're left with n equals negative 19 divided by 2. See, that was easy. Let's move on to example 3. All right, so we're looking at a statement that's similar to, or I should say we're looking at a sentence that is similar to the sentence that we had previously. And we have 2 times a number less than 6 is negative 25. You see that then. We talked about that earlier. So let's see how this plays out. So we have 2 times, and we're going to use that dot to represent multiplication, a number, and we're going to use a variable, n in this case, less than. Now, less means subtraction. And 6 is negative 25. Now, let's look at that than. All right, so anytime you have that than there, we're actually going to switch the placement of some of the values that we have in our mathematical sentence. So you see how we have 2 times n minus 6. Since we have that than is telling us we're actually going to stick that 6 in the front. So it's going to look like this. 6 minus 2n equals negative 25. So just understand we're saying that 2 times a number is less than 6. So that's why we have the 6 in the front. And that less still means subtraction. So we have 6 minus 2n equals negative 25. All right, so let's go ahead and solve. So we're going to minus 6 on both sides. Yes. And then from here we have negative 2n equals a negative 31. Okay, we're not done here. Our variable is not by itself. So we're going to divide out by negative 2 on both sides. And we're left with n equals a positive 31 divided by 2. See, that wasn't that difficult. All right, we have one more example. Let's look at translating mathematical equations when we have a multi-step equation. All right, so we have negative 2 times the quantity of a number added to 5 is 23. So let's look at that. Let's translate that. Now, we see that word quantity, and it's not included in our translation box, but I'll let you know how to handle it. All right, so negative 2, so we have that negative 2 times, we have the multiplication symbol, the quantity of. So the quantity of, we're going to actually be using a parentheses. And everything that's behind that quantity of, with the exception of is and 23, is going to actually be going inside of our parentheses. All right, so let's continue to translate. A number, in this case, we're using x as our variable, added to 5 is 23. So how is this going to look? Negative 2, open parentheses, x plus 5, close parentheses, equals 23. So that's how we deal with that quantity of. You see that the x plus 5 actually went inside the parentheses. All right, so now we're going to want to distribute. And we're going to distribute inside the parentheses, and we're going to have negative 2x plus a negative 10 equals 23. Now, that plus and minus are sitting together, so we could just write it as minus, because negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. So we're going to have negative 2x minus 10 equals 23. Now, we're going to isolate our variable by adding 10 on both sides, and our 10s on the left side cancel out, so we have negative 2x equals 33. We're not done yet. We need to isolate our variable, so we're going to divide by negative 2 on both sides, and our final answer equals x equals negative 33 divided by 2. Now, I hope this video on translating mathematical equations was beneficial to you. Again, my name is Keisha Wallace. I'm with ACEWell Scholars. You can get more information on the services that we offer at www.acewellscholars.org. Also, visit us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Continue to have fun learning.